Okay. Again, hello. My name is Rick Salisbury. I'm an instructional design consultant with IDD. And what we do as a department is generally help faculty prepare online courses for distance learning. And my primary responsibility is mostly video, creating video modules, video learning objects. But in that role, I do a lot of research on web tools and 2.0 tools and finding out how to best display information in Blackboard. And one of the tools I've come across is EditGrid. And EditGrid is pretty much just like Excel, but on the web. If you're familiar with Excel, you already know how to use EditGrid pretty much. Even if you're a power user or a beginner, it's going to look exactly the same as Excel does. So this is an example of an EditGrid spreadsheet. It's sitting in my browser, has all your same menu functions, your same commands, browse, sort, total, sum. Formulas work exactly the same, so you can sum and arrange, things like that. So it's if you're comfortable with Excel, you're going to be comfortable using EditGrid. So what I'd like to show you today is just sort of how to get started and signing up for an account, uploading spreadsheets, or creating new spreadsheets, because you can upload your existing Excel spreadsheets to EditGrid. Some of the unique features of EditGrid, I'll show you some of the remote data functionality, because since it's sitting on the web, you can pull web data directly into your spreadsheets. And also how to publish your spreadsheets into Blackboard, and then some of the privacy functionality and how to protect the content and only share it with your students or the groups of people that you want to share it with. So to start off, when you first go to editgrid.com, you're just with this home page, and you'll click sign up, and you'll want to sign up for the personal account, which is free account. Let's see if we can sign up with my existing address. Can't use that email address because it's already taken by me. And so it's that simple to get started. So now I've set up my account, and I can go directly to my Workspace. And this is the Workspace area in which you sort of can control everything about your spreadsheets. You can create a new one, a new blank spreadsheet, or you can upload it from your computer if you have an existing Excel spreadsheet. And that's what we'll do here. So we're just going to choose our file. And I have this beta weighted average cost of capital spreadsheet. And I'll upload that. You can also load multiple files up to 5 at a time if you go into the multiple file upload area. And it takes Excel files, open office files, Lotus 1, 2, 3, CSV, pretty much any sort of tabular data format file.
What was the first format? Did you say?
Excel, open office,
but you
CSV.
Tried it with like most of the versions of Excel, like especially the newest.
It can't do the XLSX one, so it can take XLS, but not the XLS. Yeah. So while we're waiting for that to upload, we'll go into my existing account. And once we have some spreadsheets uploaded, I've uploaded a handful here, created some new ones. From our My Workspace area, we can tag our spreadsheets just to give them like another descriptive character so they're easy to search. So if you had a series of spreadsheets you wanted to use for Accounting 101. You can tag them all Accounting 101. Makes it easier to filter on those and find those groups of spreadsheets that are related to some common set or group. You can re-upload and replace the file, delete the file, set share properties, download the file back to Excel if you want to in any of these available formats, so CSV, PDF, as a text file. So that's sort of where you navigate your collection of spreadsheets that you have in EditGrid. I've uploaded here a present value spreadsheet, and it just shows future and present values of a set amount for a certain interest rate over a certain period of time. And has some other tabs with different sort of compounding spreadsheets. And all the functionality works the same as in Excel. But one of the cool features about EditGrid is because it is web enabled, we have a series of web functions that we can input that'll bring data from the web into our spreadsheet. They're all available when you're entering your function or your formula. Are y'all familiar with functions in Excel and how they work? So I'm not. Okay. If you go to the Data tab, you'll see a series of functions that are all pulling data from the web. So for finance, we have spreadsheets, functions from Reuters, from Yahoo, from other services. So I've set up some formulas here, and I have a list of what I think are commerce-related functions that you might want to look in your list or in this packet that go over the formula name and the necessary fields. And I also have, there's also a URL that's a much more exhaustive tutorial on how to use these remote data functions. But I've set a few up here just for you guys to take a look at them. So we have a Yahoo Historical, which is going to give us stock data for our stock from a starting point in time to an ending point in time. We want the daily at a daily one, so we're going to have one for each day over that time period, and we want the closing price. This Yahoo stock is just going to give us the current price, and it's actually going to update every 15 minutes, so it'll change throughout time. Crunchbase is a web database of startups. So in this formula, there's a company called Uyala, which we use for video sharing or video serving. So we're going to look at total funding for this company called Uyala to see how well funded they are and make sure they don't go out of business. And then in addition to just raw data, we can also create charts. So this is a Yahoo Finance chart looking at Yahoo, Google, and Microsoft over the past 2 years. So I'm going to remove the little text things here, and we'll show you how this data gets populated into the spreadsheets. So this is a daily closing price of Google over the last 2 years. This is the most recent day, so this would be from January 26, 2009, moving on down. Oops. Price currently is $331.80. Here's we're pulling from Crunchbase now. And they've been funded with $8.5 million according to the Crunchbase tech database. And we're going to do this finance chart, which is actually going to put a chart into our spreadsheet. So we can't see it that well, but if we expand the cell, we now have a chart. And these are all dynamically populated, so the ones that change, particularly the stock price and this chart, are going to dynamically change in your spreadsheet as time goes along. And you don't necessarily have to hard code these formulas in. Just like anything, that these can reference cells themselves. So if you had your ticker symbols, Google, Yahoo, all on the left-hand column, in the ticker symbol area, you can just reference that cell and pull from that cell. So you can set up some pretty cool-looking spreadsheets that students can play around with and experiment with. So here's one, a stock chart that just creates a chart based off whatever input parameters you put in. And underneath the graphic it's just using an if-then statement to create our chart formula that pulls this data directly in. So say, for example, we wanted to change Google to GE, we can just type that in there, and now we're comparing GE, Yahoo, and Microsoft. So that's some of the really cool functionality of EditGrid. But now, once you've created your spreadsheet, how do you share these spreadsheets with users and with students? And more importantly, how do you make sure that only the students see these spreadsheets? So you're not necessarily sending the content or the spreadsheets out and sharing them with the whole world, unless, of course, that's what you want to do. Within EditGrid, there's 6 layers or 6 varieties of security. And if you go to share to public, you can see these 6 little varieties. Private, of course, is only you have access to the spreadsheet. Only you are going to see the data. You're not sharing it with anyone. Public read-only is everyone can see it, everyone has access to it, but they can't make any edits. Public read-write is all the security is taken off. Not only can people see it, but anyone can edit it. So it's probably best to avoid that third one. Protected read-only, it's going to set up you're going to need a password to read it, and then when you can read it, you can't make edits. So that's a good choice. Protected read and write, you need a password to read and to write, but once you have access, you can make changes to the spreadsheet. And then read and protected write. Read, the spreadsheet is open, everyone can read it, but in order to make a change to the spreadsheet, you have to have the password. So I'll change the security here to protected read and write, and it asks me for a password for the spreadsheet. Now I can share this link that it provides with anybody I want to have access to the spreadsheet, and then send them the password I just created. So that's one way to share the file, just to send this link around. But what I think is a really cool way to share it is to create what's known as a widget and to embed the spreadsheet within your Blackboard course itself. So I'm going to show that right now. So under Publish, Share sets up security, and under Publish, there's one more thing I wanted to show you under security real quick, now that we're touching on security. Is say you have a spreadsheet that is open to everybody, everyone can read it, and students can write to it so they can make changes on the spreadsheet. But there's areas that you still want to protect. You might have formulas in there that are doing things that you don't want people messing around and messing up. But you want them to be able to edit, for example, the present value and the interest rate, but you don't want them messing with this area down here. You just highlight the area I'll set up another one of these little formulas, explanations, and under collaborate, cell range lock, apply range lock. So now that you see the areas in yellow, that area has been locked off. So even if someone has write access to the spreadsheet, they won't be able to make changes to the boxes encoded in yellow. So that's another way to sort of restrict access to certain areas of the spreadsheet. So let's talk about publishing in Blackboard and how we can go about doing that. Under the Publish tab, there's 3 options, and what we're concerned primarily around is widgets. That creates like a little bundle of HTML code, a little group of HTML code that we can then embed into Blackboard and have our spreadsheet set up to work there. So within our widget choices, we have an HTML table, which is pretty much just a static table. We have a mini edit grid, which is pretty much taking this spreadsheet and moving it over. It's taking the application, just putting it right in Blackboard, all the same functionality and features. Or there's a calculator view. The calculator view looks just like the mini edit grid view, except any changes made to the spreadsheet won't flow and affect your master sheet. So again, that's another layer of security you can have, is if you embed as calculator views and they have write access to the spreadsheet, they can play around and tinker around and look at the formulas, but they're not going to be harming the master sheet, and the next student who logs on and looks at the spreadsheet is going to see the original spreadsheet with no changes made. Another way to share is with the cell region. And what the cell region does is it creates an HTML table sharing method, but it's not the whole spreadsheet. It's specific to a range of cells. So you would highlight this area, say publish cell region, and now it's going to give you a set of code that's only going to put from B4 to M8 into Blackboard. So I'll go through the publish process. Let's take our cell region. If we hit advanced options, in any one of these methods, if you hit advanced options, you go to this page, this screen, and in this screen you can choose the style of embed that you want to create. You can, again, set the range if you just want it to be a select range of cells. But in this case, let's make a mini edit grid. We're going to lose that functionality because with mini edit grid, we bring in the whole spreadsheet over. We can adjust height and width of our spreadsheet. Right now it's set at 112 pixels, which if we look in our preview, this is what it's going to look like when it's embedded in Blackboard. It doesn't give us a whole lot to play with, so let's make that, say, 500 pixels. Okay, that's better. So we also have some other options here which allow us to turn on and turn off different toolbars and function bars and our column rows and headers. So if we turn off the column and rows, we no longer have them in our embedded object. We might want to include the function bar just so students can maybe see how these formulas are being calculated or how this chart is being calculated. But when we're happy with how it looks, we just grab this code right here, go into Blackboard, find a content area that we're happy with, so we're going to put it into course information, create a new item. give it a title. Stock charts. And before we paste that code that we just copied, within Blackboard there's one crucial thing that you have to do, and that's to go into the HTML editing mode, which are those two little brackets. So we want to enter that area. Everything else will be grayed out, so we now know that we're in HTML editing mode. Paste our code in. Hit submit. Hit OK. And if we now go to our course information page, now within Blackboard we have our stock chart database, or spreadsheet, excuse me, set up that students can now interact with. We did set this up to be password protected, and it's not showing because I'm currently logged in and I'm the owner of this file. So if we go, I'm going to go into my Safari browser here, and I've embedded some spreadsheets, and since I'm not signed in Safari, it's going to show me these password protected views of these files. So when a student comes into Blackboard and you have a spreadsheet embedded, they're going to see something like this. So all these are all examples of the same spreadsheet. So I'm going to enter in my password once, and it's putting a cookie on the machine. So it's going to, since it's all the same spreadsheet, just different types of views, the password's going to affect all 4 versions in here that I have. So. When I refresh, it should. So this first little area is the specific cell region embed that I just showed, where I just selected and highlighted a group of cells and made a widget from that group of cells. So it's just pretty much a static HTML table. I can't edit this at all. Our second example is an HTML spreadsheet. It's an HTML embed, so it's also static, but I embedded the whole spreadsheet, so I can still view all the tabs that are in the spreadsheet. I can't play around with it at all.
I have a question.
Sure.
But let's say they logged out later today, you updated it, and then they went back into Blackboard. It would be
updated. I'll show that in just a second with some of these ones that allow edits to be made.
No, but I mean even the static ones, they would be updated.
Yeah, they will also be updated. And the ones down below I can edit, and you'll see that the change reflects the ones up above when I make a change in the editable ones. Does that make sense?
Refresh.
For the static pages, they will have to refresh. In this calculator view, when I make the change, it'll happen on the fly. Because these are just static created HTML tables that are locked in. So this is a calculator view. So the student can edit the spreadsheet. You can see that this content area is logged off. Unless I've logged in as me. No, okay. I can make a change to this. Let's say we're starting with 25,000. Can I make a change to that? Whoops. I guess I didn't lock off that area. Or this is an older version of the file I have embedded, perhaps. I'm sorry. But I can make changes, but I'm not affecting the master sheet at all. So if I were to go back to my master sheet and even refresh, I'm going to see that the changes aren't following through. And my final example here, whoops, is the mini edit view. So here I can edit, I can make changes, I can do anything I can with a spreadsheet, but the changes aren't going to flow through, or the changes will flow through the master sheet. So when I change this one, you'll see the other spreadsheets get reflected with that change. So let's change this to 12%. And go back to our master sheet. And now we see our master sheets been affected with the 12%. And if we refresh up here, assignments, we now have 12% in all our in our table embeds and in our calculator view as well. And this area, yeah, okay, this is the right one. This area is locked off, so I can't make any changes to this if I wanted to. So the formulas are all protected. So that's embedding spreadsheets into Blackboard. If you have your students sign up for EditGrid accounts as well, and you give them access to your spreadsheets or let them sign in, if they, like right now, I just set up that new account, Rick S. So I'm logged in as Rick S, and because I know the password to these spreadsheets where they've been embedded, I'm signed in to EditGrid. And if I'm signed in, I can use this chat room. So we see Our Salisbury, which is my primary account, and that Rick24 account, which I just created. So you could be online as an instructor, as a faculty member, with your students who are working with the spreadsheets and guide them through in tutorials and have live chats with all your students at one time. So we can say, I don't understand the question. Oops. Help. This view is all messed up. Let me go down to this one. And we should see in our master list someone is also on. And so we have our students who are now chatting and asking us questions here, and we can respond and say, change the interest rate, and go back to the other user and have it going back and forth in the chat room. I didn't make the spreadsheet big enough to see the chat area for some reason. So there is some give and take and sort of balancing out how big your spreadsheets need to be and finding that right area, but there's some testing ground there. But the chat window is pretty useful for back and forth dialogue with your students. I have some other additional functionality of EditGrid. If you are a Windows user, there's an Excel plugin that you download and install and gives you all the EditGrid functionality of the remote data features with your Excel spreadsheets, and has a direct upload to EditGrid. So you can pretty much work in Excel, stay in Excel, and then push and pull files to EditGrid directly from within Excel. If you're an iPhone user, there's a EditGrid application that gives you all the functionality of your spreadsheets on your phone as well. I don't know if there's a Android version, but there might be. But so there is some mobility to these, being able to see spreadsheets not just on a PC, but pretty much anywhere. So you can send your data back and forth. I use this for fantasy football a lot, so that's how I use it in my personal life, breaking down the possible playoff scenarios with my friends.